All right, this is Gelman again with another PT Spotlight. Excited to have Zac Weiss here joining me. Zac has been a member of Wrestling Cards and Collectibles for a while. I'll let him introduce himself. But as we've done with a number of these types of conversations, just looking to get some time with Zac to understand his collection, what he collects, and how he goes about acquiring what he does, and then additionally, like why he was collecting some of the things that he's decided to collect. So, Zac, welcome to PT Spotlight. How you doing, man?
Good, Adam. How are you? I figured with Pat having such luck with his Zoom, I figured make it a video daily double here, right?
I love it. I love it. We always shoot for video, and not everybody is camera friendly and ready to be on camera. So I'm glad you were able to be that type of person because I love talking with everybody, and I'm a very open person. So it's good to have somebody on video and be able to discuss. So tell me a little bit about your collection, just for everybody who maybe doesn't know who you are or what you collect. Give us a little bit of an overview of what you collect and how you've come to sort of have that as part of your main focus for your PC.
Well, sure. I think first of all, it's always good to be a part of WCC. It's always been such a great group that's collaborating. There's something for everybody that's there. Although a lot of it is card heavy, there is a lot of other things such as memorabilia and just having casual interactions, razzes, whatever the case may be, box breaks, and it's a very friendly page in a time where there's a lot of uncertainty. It's always good to have an escape with WCC and just know that we're all here to help each other and grow each other's collection, which really is what it's all about. Obviously, with cards being even more profitable in these markets and it becoming even harder to get cards because of price points going up, it's always interesting to see how Topps is kind of throwing in extra wrinkles in that respect, which you've covered very well, Adam. But it's always good to interact with a lot of members, some of whom I'm familiar with, others obviously I'm not. It's a large community, and it's very fortunate to be a large community. And hopefully, for those that don't know me, this is an opportunity to get to know a little bit about me. I started mainly with cards like everybody else, but I think this last year or two, with Topps kind of having a little bit of uncertainty with their products and a little bit less consistency, I shifted my process more towards focusing on larger pieces like 8 by 10s and plaques and things along those lines. And specifically, I like priding myself on inscriptions. So, really, this is an interesting one in that it's not necessarily more card based, but it's more larger ish item based, where it's an opportunity to kind of see a wrestler either have a fun moment with a fan or just reminisce on something. So, it's always good to have stories behind the items that you have and to have those stories. And it's a privilege. And I think that in so much uncertainty where there hasn't been fans really in person, it's really good to have a contact, whether it's virtual or in the past in person, to get the chance to meet these wrestlers and get a couple seconds to see who they are and what makes them tick beyond the script or beyond the in-ring activity that they're given. So it's
Yeah.
kind of cool to get in their heads for a little bit and have a chance to interact with them. And really, I think that's what this is all about.
Yeah, that's really cool. I know for me, I've been an autograph collector for 35 plus years. Like my dad got me started really really young because when he was young, like he collected autographs, and that's really what got me into sports cards. And eventually, my because I grew up during the Attitude Era, we were all wrestling fans, and so that's kind of where this whole thing came from. But the inscription thing, you mentioned the inscriptions in 8 by 10s because that's always been something that's driven me too. And when you see that wrestlers sign, you know, 10,000 cards over the course of a couple of years, like the inscriptions are really what make a lot of those things special and for me personally, in the 8 by 10s that I collect, I do a lot of those same things because I think it adds to the allure of the piece. So tell me a little bit about kind of, I know you love to go out and meet wrestlers. I've always been a junkie like that too. And so what sort of got you started on this path really for your specific collection? Like what were the first few pieces that you got that really made you think like, yes, I need to continue collecting 8 by 10s with inscriptions on them?
Well, it was really weird because the way it started actually, because I'm coming up on meeting my 250th wrestler, God willing,
Wow.
next weekend in Baltimore, which is very admirable. And a lot of people go, well, how do you know? Well, actually, a couple or so years ago, I started making a Word document strictly for myself where I kind of chart, hey, this is how I met the person, this is where I met the person and when, this is what we discussed, this is what they signed, kind of my own little Word document. I haven't put all the pictures in, but without the pictures, I'm at about the 60, 70 page break right now, just with
Wow.
details. And being a sports journalist, wrestling is a chance for me to be my escape, but it also allows me to have that detail for myself where if I recall meeting a person, such as meeting a Charlotte Flair, I can say, oh yeah, I met her at AwesomeCon in Washington D.C. in 20, I think it was 18, and this is what she signed, and this was the story that we had. My first person that I met was Paige, and that was for meeting 250 wrestlers almost. I met Paige in September of 2015. And considering we've had a pandemic since then, it's pretty remarkable that I've been fortunate enough to meet that many different wrestlers over such a
Right.
short period of time. But Paige was at a wrestling convention. It was not wrestling, sorry. It was at a Wizard World, the only real full-fledged one they had in Pittsburgh. I think they tried one other one separately, and it just kind of crashed and burned. It wasn't necessarily the same with its features, but Paige was very, very outgoing and was very friendly. And what struck me was I remember how nervous I was because I didn't really have anything. I remember I walked up to her and I remember she'd said that she was a spearmint girl. So I went to the grocery store. Everybody buys things that the wrestlers just kind of say, okay, thanks. And they might not keep just because there's so many things that they're given. And I got her a pack of spearmint gum, which sounds really cheesy, but in the same respect, it's something I know she'd use, something that would help her. And she
That's funny.
appreciated it. But I had on a Total Divas polo that day. I specifically remember that. And forgive my terrible accent here, but Paige goes up and goes, "Hey, Total Divas," and I go, "Yeah, that's great." And I just was struck by how personable she was because you have wrestlers that are on the road. It's this city, it's this city, it's this, and a lot of times when they're interacting, either they don't want to interact because they're so one-track mind, or
Right.
it's such an assembly line of people where it's barely enough time to shake a hand or kiss a baby and it's on to the next person. So I was really struck by how friendly and outgoing Paige was and how she wanted to talk to us and she
Right.
genuinely felt like she wanted to be there. And you don't always get that feeling. And some people feel like they're just in it because they have to be or because they're getting a nice paycheck or a pay appearance. But Paige genuinely felt like she wanted to be there. If not, heck, give her an Oscar for that. But I was struck by that. And then there was a couple of other shows in Pittsburgh, and then I decided to spread my wings. I went to the WrestleMania in New York that week, and I believe in 2 or 3 days I met 85 people, which
Wow.
is
That
that
must have
was
been fun.
it was a heck of a trip, especially considering I got that Mania cold, the legendary Mania cold, the first day, which wasn't the greatest. Heck of an introduction for Mania, but that was the trip. I was fortunate. I met Bret Hart. I met Ric Flair with his robe. I met Ronda Rousey, Shane McMahon, among others. It was a heck of a trip, but it was an expensive trip too. But it was my first time doing a Mania, which is something I never thought that I'd have the means of being able to do in any stretch. And for me to say, yeah, I went to WrestleMania week and I got to experience it, and all the wrestlers were so personable and entertaining that it was a joy. And just from there, I mean, having those inscriptions, I think the key for an inscription for me is so many wrestlers just sign their name. They'll put it to Adam, they'll put it to Zach, they'll shake your hand pre-COVID, and then they'll take the picture, and that's it. And a lot of times I go, for example, with Samoa Joe, hey, I've got a superstar yearbook. Joe, could you write "Oh Wendy" in there? Obviously, to what happened
My,
with AJ. So
that's
Joe goes,
cool.
oh, what? And Access is so uptight with inscriptions and so quick because there's so many fans in such small time that they want to meet everybody, or as many people as possible at least. And I go, "Oh, Wendy," and Joe just laughs and goes, "Of course, man, you got it." So he threw "Oh, Wendy" on there, 3 or 4 exclamation marks and a squiggly underline. Posed for the picture. That's it. He snickered. So it was as rewarding for me as it was for him because it shows that I'm a fan. It shows that I do care, and it's not just the same thing. It was a unique experience for both of us. And I think when it comes to inscriptions, as long as they're in good taste and it's not like you're writing a novel, which some guys and girls are up for, but some maybe aren't necessarily up for, and it's reading the situation. And I think that's the important thing is it should be fun for everybody. And some wrestlers might not be their thing, but if they're up for it and they're up for a good time, then goodness gracious, I mean, let's go for it.
Yeah, I hear you. I've had the pleasure of meeting a few wrestlers, some in actual situations where they're supposed to be there, and other times where it's just a happenstance meeting. And I swear to God, I have never had a bad experience ever. Like they are just on point and on with the fans every time they are put in those situations, and it's really remarkable. And I think that the fact that you've kind of found ways to kind of catch them off guard a little bit and have them sort of pull a page from the past or pull a page from a fun spot in their career, like I'm sure that they really appreciate that outside of the mundane, like, hey, shake a hand, sign a picture, whatever. And I get inscriptions and as many times as I can. I know we've been a part of the same groups, kind of running around trying to get some people to sign. And I always love getting cool inscriptions just like you do. So it's kind of resonated with me because it's very similar in our collection focus in that respect. So Zach, let's see some of your top spots here. Like I'm interested. I can't wait to see some of these inscriptions. I know you kind of previewed with me that you have a few fun ones. So let's see the best of the best here. And the stories behind them. I'm interested to hear about the wrestlers and what they said when you asked them to sign these things.
Well, some of these are not in person. Some of these are over virtuals or through other vendors. The
Sure.
one good thing about wrestling is there's so many vendors now that offer so many different services, some virtual, some in person on their travels. So I really think that's the most interesting thing. So this first one will be virtual. Well, from a seller named Lewis from Ultimate Stars Promotions. I'll give him a quick plug.
Nice.
Good guy. I can't recommend him enough. So this is from Taya Valkyrie, who's now Frankie in NXT.
Monet, yeah,
Frankie
Frankie
Monet.
Monet, yeah.
Yeah, not to be confused with Danielle. No, who is it? Danielle Monet, who's Summer Rae, I believe, in
Oh right,
WWE.
yeah.
But you would think that this would be a wrestling inscription, but she's a big fan of Step Brothers, and that's one of my favorite movies. So it's the fucking Catalina wine mixer to Zach.
That's awesome. I love it.
She popped. I saw her sign it in person, so that was awesome. So that's definitely one.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Here's one from Carmella. This was an overseas signing. So this one was when she cashed in on Money in the Bank. So you would expect her to say, Miss Money in the Bank, whatever, whatever. I didn't do that because if you remember her spot cashing in, Mike Chioda, the referee, took forever to get the match to restart. So, I don't know how all that shows up. To Zach, ring the bell, Chioda, and then she signed it.
That's awesome.
That's her running down the ramp. I'll probably show that. Chioda will be in Baltimore this coming Saturday, so that's a good one.
You gotta have the picture of both of them and have it dual signed.
I wish I had it. That was the picture I had from overseas. So unfortunately, my options were very limited. But there's a chance that I'll get Chioda to sign that and maybe complete it and
that's
have
awesome.
it write something snarky or something.
That's cool.
Eric Bischoff was someone that I met at WrestleCon 2019 in New York. He was someone that I really, really enjoyed. He was so great. We did a picture together, and the picture was him giving me both middle fingers. Me just me doing the best sell job I possibly can, which no Academy Award is coming my way, but it's okay. But of course, Bischoff was just inducted into the Hall of Fame this year, which congratulations to Bischoff. He really deserves it. But PG-13 again on this one. Here's the picture. To Zach, go fuck yourself from your, what does it say? Your number 1 and number 2 fan.
That's
and then he signed it. So really, that's what it is. It's all about getting that chuckle.
I know there was I saw an eBay listing where him and Stone Cold both signed a FedEx envelope, and it was like Stone Cold had written like, I can't believe you fucking fired me over FedEx or something like that. He was like, you deserved it or something like that. But yeah, I've met him before. He's amazing. He's one of the best people to meet in person for sure.
That's awesome. This one, not necessarily the most special, but I think the inscription at the time was more elusive. Zack Ryder, at the time, now Matt Cardona, obviously his big thing when he was the internet champion was woo, 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 you know it.
Yeah.
So when you would sign it at WrestleMania Access, he would put the WWWYKI for pretty much anybody that asked. So there was an inside joke between me and my friend from this guy that looked like Zack Ryder, so I had to. This is on the list. It's not the flashiest, but because he finally wrote it and the inside joke, which of course plays to my heartstrings, I wanted to show that one. My last 2 8x10s, then I've got a plaque that I'll show at the end.
Sure.
You know what? I'll show the plaque first. I met the Riot Squad at Access separately. This one was a special one. Unfortunately, they didn't sign together. Liv and Sarah Logan signed the first night of Access, and then Ruby signed the Sunday, the last session. So obviously the plaque itself is them, the three of them. It's obviously once they're gone, they're gone. And I don't think they see the plaques often. And so many times when I've brought plaques for people to sign, they go, I don't even have one of these. So it's weird that you would think that WWE would take care of their talent and get them to get their plaque. So at
I
least
doubt that. Yeah, that's not surprising to me at all. But go ahead.
they might as well. So I mean, at least ship it in a garbage bag, something.
Well,
But
I just think it's not because WWE is nefariously going after these people and not sending them their stuff, but I think they're like most of the plaques are created separately by another retail organization that then allows WWE to resell them, I think. So I'm sure that the superstars were really excited to see them and be able to sign them because especially if they don't have copies themselves.
sure. So this is it. I'll try to walk everybody through this.
Oh, that's so cool.
So this one is Liv writing "I hate you, love Liv." The idea behind that one was honestly I saw it on WWE auction and I couldn't afford it. So she goes, "I love that." So you might notice it's hard to tell, but she signed her name in the silver Sharpie right there, and then
Yep.
she signed over it. But she did use the silver Sharpie to sign over Ruby's head because
That's
Ruby
cool.
wasn't at the signing and she wanted to show Ruby how much she loved her. So
That's awesome.
that was cool. I had Sarah Logan sign Squad Squad, and then we literally did the three of us a Squad Squad chant right then and there in the middle of the access line.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, Dash and Dawson were not big fans of that, but whatever. Everybody's a critic. And then Ruby Riot's a big fan of the Golden Girls. And again, all of these are inscriptions at Access where they're trying to not have inscriptions, move the line, move the line. But knowing that Ruby's a big Golden Girls fan, I had her write, "Thank you for being a friend." And she goes, "Oh my gosh, yes, of course I'll sign it," like
Yeah,
that.
that's
So she
awesome.
wrote it on there, and
That's really cool.
that's the full completed piece. So
That's
that
and
one was awesome.
do you hang all of these in your like bedroom or office or whatever in your house? Like, how do you display all these? You've got quite a bit of them, I know.
Yes, there's different. Right now, they're windows. There are window pieces along my room. We're
Gotcha.
in the process of trying to find time to frame all this stuff, but that's a
That's
lot of
tough.
commandments.
I just recently went through that, so I know how difficult that can be.
The second to last one is from Brad Maddox. Uh, yeah, that's my narration. Yeah, but I had. I'll just let the piece speak for itself.
That's awesome.
Fucking cocky
It fits
prick.
with him. It fits with him.
Well, also was the last thing he said. It was a thing he said that got him fired from WWE.
I remember. Yeah.
So that that had to happen. That's a cool one. And of course, in typical Brad Maddox fashion, true to the gimmick, signed it sideways.
Nice.
So that's definitely one of the best inscriptions. And then the last one I'll share is one from Alexa Bliss. This one's not really funny, but it's more personal. Alexa and I have a commonality that we both had eating disorders,
Mm,
and my eating disorder defined pretty much my entire collegiate experience, where
sure.
I went from 180 pounds to 105 pounds
Wow.
within about a 8 to 10 month process. And every night I'd go to sleep and I wouldn't be sure if I'd wake up the next day or not. I
Oh
had
wow.
dreams of, sorry again, this is going PG-13, but I had dreams that I had suicidal dreams every single night.
Mm,
And so I had to correct myself and fix myself and prove myself every day that I was worth it.
yeah,
And
for sure.
it was a very, very difficult process where the classes of my attending were less and less because I had to work on myself, whether it was in the gym or just gaining confidence and trust in myself that I had lost. And at the time, I hadn't known why. And I couldn't explain the feelings. And I finally started coming on the other side, but I wasn't sure what exactly was going on. And then I read an interview from Alexa about her eating disorder and how she was hospitalized and the hardships that she had to endure because of it. And long story short, I was able to finally put two and two together. And a day or two ago, I celebrated my 4-year anniversary
Congratulations.
of writing my experience of finally realizing what was going on and writing my exact feelings about it. And then I updated it a year later. So
That's
I
amazing.
beat I would say I beat it through maybe after college or whatever the case may be, but obviously I didn't really get I had a chance to sort of tell her at Barclays Center at the physical SummerSlam meet and greets, but it was her, Naomi, and Asuka, and it was just such an assembly line. There just wasn't really an opportunity.
Right.
So I finally had the chance to kind of tell her during. That's why I bought the 2 minute meet and greet, the virtual one, to just tell her thank you and kind of tell with what time I had my story. And you could tell that it touched her. But there was
That's
another
awesome.
another private signing where this one might be, it's not a flashy inscription, but it's just, this is the first thing I'll see every
Oh,
single
that's
day.
awesome. Yeah.
To Zach,
And
you're worth it. And the picture makes it because it's kind of that graffiti background
yeah,
where
for sure.
it kind of is rough around the edges, but very expressive. And I feel that the journey
That's
that I've
awesome.
had is
She
equally.
must have been just amazing, and just I know she's been so vocal about awareness around all of those types of things, and I'm sure she loved hearing the story of how you were able to overcome all of those challenges.
Yeah, it was a very difficult journey, but it's moments like those where the toughest thing is, I think that when you have body shaming, especially as a male, I think a lot of people equate it by gender, and I don't think
Hmm.
that that's a fair statement to make. It
Right,
doesn't
right.
matter what race you are, it doesn't matter what gender you are, it doesn't matter what religion you practice. Eating disorders, body shaming, all these things, low self-esteem, low confidence can affect anybody anytime. And a lot of people are, myself included, are we're very good at compartmentalizing and masking that. And
I'm sure. Yeah, makes sense.
some people aren't fortunate to be on that other side. And in my case, I was in such denial and I had no idea that I easily should have been hospitalized. And it took me a year to 2 years to even realize I had a bump on my face. I was that thin. I was just bones.
Oh wow.
So it was a very difficult journey, but to connect with Alexa on that level, and I told her, I really appreciate what you do in and out of the ring, but I really owe you a huge thank you because there's a very good possibility that you saved my life.
That's
And
awesome.
even though I had beaten it physically, the mental aspect was still there because
I'm
that
sure.
pain was right there. And by the time I finally got around to writing my feelings, which I was working childcare at the time, and I was writing in my iPhone literally exactly what I was feeling in that given moment, which was the piece I ended up publishing. And that pain was sharper than I'd ever felt. And what normally would have been wincing was me smiling because I knew that that pain, the moment I felt that pain, that was my pain finally leaving my body. I finally expressed myself. I finally accepted what my fate was at that point, and I'd come to acceptance with it. And I knew that if it ever comes back, which these things can, that I'll be ready because I know how to
Right.
handle it because I've handled it before. And I've turned what could have been the biggest negative into an overwhelming positive. And I'm very fortunate in that respect where a lot of people aren't. And for anybody that is watching this that is experiencing similar feelings, not only is this a very loving and accepting group, but I'm personally here for you. I'll personally advocate if you need me to. I'm here. I'm in your corner. Just love yourself every single day, and it's amazing what a little that such a little bit of love goes a very long way. So that piece really is one of the piece de resistance. All three of
I
those
can
last three
imagine.
really stick out. So in terms of inscriptions, sometimes it's just a simple meet and greet. Sometimes it's something that sticks out, but it's always fun to just get inside their heads and interact with them on a human level because although
Yeah.
they have so many more responsibilities than we do and whatever, they're just like us in a lot of different ways, and seeing that human, that mortal side of them is really refreshing. And the one cool thing about wrestling is even now with it being virtual, there's so much more accessibility to meet your favorite wrestler, whereas it's not so easy to meet your favorite athlete or your favorite celebrity.
Exactly. Because they
And the
make it so
chance to
much
meet
about
them.
the fans. Yeah, they make it so much
Exactly.
about the fans. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, if there's a convention, you're bound to see a consistent person. You're bound to see someone like a hacksaw Jim Duggan at a convention, or somebody that's always there that's a staple. And you come to expect that. And it's almost like it becomes your family in a respect. You see these people or you see these vendors, and while they're doing business, sometimes you can have personal relationships with them. And you see these people, and I know that personally for me, I'm looking forward to when I go to Baltimore and I get to see some of these familiar faces again, or I get to experience some normalcy. And it's good to have that feeling in a year where I think a lot of people were concerned with how this virtual thing was going to go, and is it the
Right.
future, is it not? I think the jury's very much still out on that. But in the same respect, I think that some wrestlers are going to choose to travel, a lot of the consistent ones. Some aren't, and some, in the case of like an AEW, for example, are behind plexiglass for now. But if you really want to meet the person, however you want to come to grips to that, the opportunity by and large is there to meet your current favorite wrestler. Some former ones like Undertaker, like Shawn Michaels, like any wrestler in Canada right now, might be a little bit more elusive, but
There's
hopefully given
opportunities.
time, and there's opportunities. I mean, Bret Hart's done a virtual. So I mean, I'm sure Trish would be willing to do a virtual, for example, and Shawn Michaels is with WWE right now. So there's always the chance to meet someone like that and to meet your
Right.
heroes. And I know a lot of people say don't meet your heroes, but by and large for wrestling, it's okay to meet your heroes. It's okay to interact. You might just get a handshake and a hi. You might get a memory that makes your entire life. I know that I was nervous meeting Alexa Bliss because of that story, and she's literally one of the sweetest people I've ever met. And
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
it's amazing just having conversations with a wrestler, how much they treat you like a friend for the most part. And sometimes they'll even recognize you based on how much of a fan you are on social media. If you post enough and
I
are
was
on
going to
there,
ask you that.
yeah.
I was going to ask you if anybody had, like, when you go back and you go back to these people after sort of making them sort of remember the inscriptions or whatever. Have you ever had somebody say, "Oh yeah, I remember you"?
Aubrey Edwards did that once, and I'll show a quick piece. This one was her with Justin Roberts, so there we
Oh,
go.
that's cool. I like it.
That's her writing John Moxley and her best Justin Roberts. Shout out to Bruno Teixeira from Breakers Club who
Yep.
organized that. And that's another proof. There's so many vendors that have been able to take a negative of am I going to be getting business and making it a positive for the fans. Whether it's virtuals, whether it's what High Spots is doing by rotating these guests and you can see them sign on camera or do virtuals and interact. So many vendors, I could really run down the line, and you and I have seen so many vendors that have been able to turn this market around, some more than others, some more favorable than others. Jury's always out on that, but there's so many vendors. I mean, and I won't waste everybody's time naming them. You can always message so many of us in the group if you have any questions about any vendors or is this inscription too much? But so many, I'm so thankful for what the vendors have been able to do, making such a dead time where there's so much stress going on and some people can't leave their homes, and there's the
exactly.
opportunity for you to get an item, and the minute you get that item in the mail or the minute you get that virtual, you go, hey, why was I nervous? This is so much fun. And then look at this is my favorite piece. No, this is my favorite piece. And just the smile that you get, it's signing something for 20-30 seconds is a very small inconvenience for a lot of these wrestlers and a lot of this talent. But for
Right.
you,
Exactly.
it lasts a lifetime, and you can't help but smile, regardless of whether it's something small like a trading card, something like an 8x10, something like a plaque, or even a canvas or whatever odds and ends or ring worn items now. I mean, so many wrestlers are willing to try to make money that they're willing to sell some of the ring worn stuff they never were before. And
Yep.
it's amazing what you can get now. And I think so much of collections are more accessible than they've ever been. And in a sense, it's credit to the inactivity the last year or year plus at this point. So there's always a chance for you to interact. There's always a chance for you to get a small part of wrestling history. And the world's your oyster as a wrestling fan this time. And you could argue, even though you can't necessarily go to the show, in terms of accessibility to wrestlers, depending on who it is, it might not be any easier than it is right now.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think this is we always hear it, unprecedented times, whatever. That's exactly what this is. And I think so many of my friends and I have sort of bonded over this over the last couple of years. Even it's because things have just exploded since the pandemic has sort of come into play. But also even before that, it's really the community aspect, and that's really what drew me. As I was saying during Pat's video here, is like that's really what drew me to this whole community, was the fact that there's just so many people out there that are just share a similar story to what you have. And I'm glad we were able to do this one on video, because I don't think we would have gotten half of the fun stuff that you were talking about or the amazing stories that you have without sort of doing this on video. And that's why I encourage a lot of people to take advantage of this, because I love hearing these stories. These are what drew me to sort of wanting to do these types of things, and to see that it's made so much of a difference for you in your life. And I know even for me, like anytime you get one of those packages in the mail, it's the best day of the week, right? The best day of the month sometimes. And, I think it's just an incredible experience for a lot of us to be able to do some of these things. And it sucks that it's gone this way with the pandemic, but I think that will eventually change. I think we've heard that for SummerSlam, they're looking at potentially going back on tour, and hopefully that opens up some of the meet and greet possibilities again. But man, if we can see by next year where WrestleMania in Dallas, that see everything kind of back to normal, would be amazing. So Zach, I appreciate the time here and the amazing sort of walkthrough of your collection and some of the incredible challenges that you've overcome and how you've sort of expressed that. So thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me on video. And for anybody else out there who wants to do one of these and wants to get on camera and sort of share the story of your collection, or even just filling out the template and submitting it, this is the type of thing that I think drives a lot of this community and showing why we do what we do. So I'm excited to have the opportunity to talk to people and have the opportunity to hear the stories like Zach has. So Zach, thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, of course. And just another quick plug for WCC. Just it's an amazing group. Just so many people to thank, from Pat Turner, Matt Reese, Edmund Lang, George Wilson, even Lucas minus his shipping. There's so much. There's so many people further on down the line, and we're always here for you guys. If you want to lead on a piece, if you have a PC wrestler, and we have leads, I'm sure that the moderators do a very good job of helping you all
Agreed.
out. And same thing with inscriptions. If you ever have any inscription questions, or hey, what's a good inscription? I mean, my door is always open. I'm always here
Now
for
they
you.
know who to come to.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I don't know, then I have a couple of another person or two that are in the inscription game that might know too. I mean, even
Awesome.
if you want to be a stalker, I mean, behave yourself. But I mean, if you see something cool on Instagram, a funny caption, go for it. I mean, have fun with it. I mean, it's as much fun for you as it is for them, as long as you respect the limits. So
Yeah,
it's
for
it's
sure.
good to share part of this of PC, Adam. I really sincerely appreciate the platform, and so many good PCs already, and I know there's so many more PCs that are waiting to be unearthed. This is our own hidden treasure, so this is a good opportunity to
I
provide that
like it.
avenue.
I like it. All right, man. Well, it's good talking to you, and we'll have this up shortly. So thanks again, and thanks again to everybody watching.